So one other question I wanted to ask was about the phenomenon described as leaning in. This is from the Sheryl Sandberg book. And there seems to be an implication there, of course, that if women can simply outcompete men within the system in which they operate, equality or parity will be achieved. And of course, one way to critique that argument is to say, well, in fact, perhaps the system itself is what needs changing. Rather than reinvesting oneself in the system, we should work to rebuild it. It seems that those kinds of tensions often play out, again, differentially along lines of class and race, and it raises questions as to what kind of focus we might want from a woman leader, a women's movement.
I completely agree with you that the lean-in strategy it's in my view a very limited kind of strategy, and it could and probably has already in some measure increasingly backfire against women. And I say that because as I see the proposals and I watch them being exercised to some extent, that is that women should demand higher pay of their individual employers, that they should put themselves forth and make themselves visible for promotions and so on, encourages exactly the kind of competitive and aggressive behavior that may in fact benefit the individual asking for those things, but it actually disadvantages all women in general, or most women, because we all know that that competitive behavior has produced the inequalities in capitalism that we see all around us. We're now facing, and Bernie Sanders in the last presidential campaign illustrated this beautifully, but we're now facing a problem of such great inequality in the society that the voices of those at the lower levels, at the lower income levels, have been tamped down. We don't hear them anymore. There are movements to exclude them even from voting or from voting rights. I'm wandering here a little bit, but I do believe that solving what is a general problem, the general problem of inequality, by individual methods is a no-win proposal. And I'm reminded of how in the 1970s there was a rather effective wing of the women's movement which made the argument for the contrary, that is, which argued for changing the system. Now, people disagreed on what the system was. Was it patriarchy that should be changed? Was it capitalism that should be changed? And so on. But the argument was, we rise and we fall together. If we don't change the patriarchal system, women in general, black women, white women, all kinds of women, immigrant women, will fall under the bus. A few will rise to the top, but the rest will be gone. I think the lean-in strategy promotes the idea that and feeds into the idea that an unequal system is really okay, that competing with each other, with other women as well as with men, will produce women leaders. It may well, but it may well produce women leaders who, like Margaret Thatcher, don't really have women's interests in general in mind, but have the interests of a particular class in mind.